Hello and welcome back to Speak. So today we are joined by Tiffany Argent, and Tiffany, I'm not going to give away the topic completely, but you want to touch on kind of AI. So Tiffany, could you give us an intro into yourself and I suppose, a bit more about what it was that you wanted to come on to speak about?
Yeah, thank you very much. Well, I'm Tiffany Argent. I'm a health and safety professional for the last 20 odd years with a background in manufacturing, science, logistics and freight forwarding. I'm kind of in between roles at the moment. So I'm on gardening leave right now. So I've just moved from one tech company and I'm going to be moving to another. So one of the things what I'd like to talk about today is artificial intelligence. Um, as a person that's just come out of a tech company, my two teenage kids thinks it's hilarious that I work for a tech company because I still can't even use my phone properly. Can you make it do that, please? So when the kind of new technology comes out, and new things that are coming through that from a trend perspective, I try and get interested in it. So I can tell my kids, hey, have you heard about this AI thing? And sound really cool to my teenagers. But also, again, just to kind of keep up with that innovative way of how, as health and safety professionals, we can manage our day to day. Because that's how I got into the current tech company that I was with, that I've just left. It was about using innovative mobile first technology that would help me, and it really did help me change my day-to-day running and management of health and safety. So then I heard about AI. So Alyssa, I know that you used AI after our brief chat last week.
I did.
So what did you use AI for?
There's a couple of us in Ireland setting up a community of practice for safety professionals. And because you have a monopoly on all the things, okay? It's very UK centric and we need our own fucking thing. Anyway, I had come up with a name which was like Safety Professionals Ireland, Community of Practice. And somebody said that abbreviates to like Spy Cop, which is not the vibe. It's not the vibe. And so I was like, right, okay, I need to come up with some options for a name. So I plugged it into ChatGPT. I was like, this is the group. This is what our vibe is. This is what we're trying to do. Give me some name options so I could put a poll into LinkedIn and people could vote on it. And and it worked. And it spat out exactly what I needed.
Brilliant. Because that, for me, that was the concern of when I first heard about AI, as specifically ChatGPT. There are other chat bots out there, but I think ChatGPT is going to be like the Google of AI, in my opinion. Again, this is all my humble opinion. I'm not an expert on AI. I just want to let your listeners know that. I'm not an expert on it. This is kind of just my opinion of how it's going to affect us in the profession. So, and my experiences with it. So, it's been around for donkey's years, AI. I think there was an SHP article written back in 2016 about how robots and AI were going to affect the profession. And there was an absolute fear-mongering of it. I remember when I was about 5 years old, my parents took me to the cinema to see Black Hole for the first time, Disney film. And there was robots. There's this cute little robot. And they thought, oh, the robots are cute. As I got older, you saw Terminator, Judgment Day, and all these robots going to try and kill people. Not so cute. I'm thinking, well, hang on, maybe robots are these kind of scary things, right? And you hear people especially in automotive manufacturing, where robots were coming and taking over people's jobs, and that kind of fear really started to kick in. But then obviously as time come on, you can see how robots can be developed to be more supportive and helpful to the everyday, for people in wheelchairs, for example, that or even, mowing your own lawn. You can have a robot that just mows your lawn or hoovers your house for you. So the reason I'm sharing that kind of story about the cinema is the fact that I've had that same kind of feeling as I've heard about AI as it's developed and become more popular, is the fact that, this could be really cool. Well, actually, it might take our jobs. But then as it's kind of developed through, is like, actually, it's kind of a support tool for health and safety professionals, and it just needs to be used well. So that's like you. I came across ChatGPT, and all the young'uns were talking about it. Where at this tech place I was working, have you done this yet? No, I never heard of it. So plugged in a question to say, do me a risk assessment, or, do me a risk assessment of a forklift truck in a warehouse with 14 aisles of racking and multiple pedestrians. And it wrote a pretty good one. I'm going, oh, crap, mate. Yeah, maybe this is the death of the professional, because this robot AI can do it. Then, then why couldn't we? So I kind of then took a step back and thought, well, if I needed to find something out, I think as health and safety professionals, we all go, we're not experts at everything. We don't know everything, but we know the right places to look, right? So we'd use the HSE or the HSA website. We'd use a book, for example, the old books, the old NEBOSH books we used to have, or, we'd go onto an IOSH forum, which are all online. And these are just these are all humans conversating with each other and supporting each other or finding information out. And that's all online. And that's all that AI appears to be doing, is grabbing information from all over the internet. Again, this is me and my very basic tech terms. It grabs all this information from the internet, kind of spews it up in its little brain or big brain, and then puts it into a response for you. So, it's very similar to Googling something. I think Chat GPT and AI could be the next, how Google's got its own, or just Google it.
Yeah.
We'll just AI it, Yeah.
It shall be a verb.
It shall be a verb. We'll AI it. But it's a bit difficult to say. We'd have to think of something a bit more useful. But yeah, I feel that that's the way it's going to go. If it's, and again, it's like everything else, as long as it's used properly.
Yeah, and I think there's that key part as well, as long as it's used properly, and there's that piece around like ethics and AI, but there's also that piece around education of how to use it, and the education piece then kind of education can solve that fear-based bit as well, I think. So that's really, but then it's that digital literacy generally, like we're not great. I just don't think we're great.
No,
I think I've got like two bits. One is around AI particularly, and the reason why we're always going to need people. But the other part is, you said you see it as a support tool, and I've definitely been trying to do exactly the same, Tiffany, when I've been like, right, I wonder how I can do this. And I actually asked chat GPT, we call it gypped. I'm going to do that because it's going to annoy me saying the whole thing, right? Chat gypped. We've gypped it. That's what we're going to do. It's not Google, it's going to be we've gypped it. And I asked it to give me five ways I could use AI to help health and safety professionals. And I found it really, really interesting. One of them I thought, bloody brilliant. It said to put all of your accident investigations through it, and to have a machine genuinely look for patterns. So it takes out all of our biases, all the things that we look for, all the things that we think about that depot or that site that had that accident. And it said, allow a computer to look for all of your accident investigations, to look for trends that you wouldn't spot. And I thought, the other four, they sort of drifted into the background for me. For that, I thought, that's pretty cool.
And I think that's what people kind of need to understand, is they are looking at JIP. They're looking at that going, oh, this is AI, this is all it is. But like we mentioned, we've been using AI for years, but probably not even realizing it. The little chat bot in the corner of those, Compare the Meerkat websites, that's an AI. The fact, I'm learning French at the minute on Duolingo.
Yeah, that's AI.
That's AI. It finds out the trends, like you're talking about, of the accident.
Alexa, they're
all of it.
It's all AI.
Yeah.
The filters on Instagram and all that kind
of
stuff.
Alexa, stop.
Alexa, shut
it. Alexa, we're not talking about you. Leave us alone. We're going to keep saying Alexa now, just to make your Alexa go off.
Yeah.
She's just buzzing. She's like, what do you need from me? This is the thing, isn't it? It's the point that humans become comfortable with it is when we make it mainstream and we kind of make it pleasant to consume. And I remember when we were first talking about like the Google Home hubs and in the corner of the rooms, all these things, I was like, man, I'll never have that in my room. There's one in every room.
Yeah.
And as somebody who is neurodivergent, dyslexic, cannot list things or hold things, she is my working memory. She wakes me up in the morning, she tells me what the weather is so I know what Emily needs for school. She holds my shopping list for when I'm shopping, like, you know.
Okay, I don't have one of them, because I was a bit like, oh, I don't know, but no, I don't have it. And you're one in the corner. So
You're one
I
in the
don't know.
corner.
I'm still a bit like, ugh.
Imagine, so I'm literally typing away, and not to divert, typing away, and I'm thinking, oh, I need to use a particular word, dyslexia. So I'm just like, blah, what is the thing? Okay, and I haven't broken a beat, I haven't looked up, I've carried on typing. Or if I'm reading something and there is technical stuff in there, I'll be like, blah, define the technical term, and I haven't broken a beat. It's just happening. And then also when that thing happens in my brain halfway through something, I don't want to get distracted, I say blah, put blah in a shopping list, and it's just done for later. Like, I couldn't live without AI.
And I think that, you know, you bring up neurodivergency, and I think that's a really key aspect as well, because it, from an inclusivity perspective, AI is really going to help those people who have dyslexia or number dyspraxia, whatever the you know, whatever they're struggling with, and AI is going to support them to kind of, you know, be able to achieve what they need to achieve in that day. I mean, my daughter's dyslexic, and she keeps asking, you know, what certain words are or what they mean and things, and it's, you know, and it's in her bedroom and it's helping her with her homework. So, you know, it's great as well, because, you know, then she's not asking me every 2 minutes.
Have you seen Grammarly? Have you heard of Grammarly?
Grammarly's on there.
So I've got, I think, the most stunning thing that I was ever gifted in terms of an inclusion, like diversity thing. I have never ever at interview stage disclosed that I'm dyslexic. I never do, because I don't like the internal things that could happen to people, or the perceptions they may build around that. And I did here, where I work now, and I was given Grammarly as an aid. And I have to say, my quality of report writing, my tools, my emails, the fact that you can strip everything and say, you've written that back to front, and it's you know, amazing.
It is. But there will be, unfortunate, those people that will take advantage of that, who maybe aren't dyslexic, aren't. I'm just thinking of, you know, kids at school that are just a little bit, don't want to do what they want to do, so they'll Grammarly or they'll GPT an essay. And I think now that, you know, even so, again, this is AI working against AI. So I was working with an SEO team that said, if you write an SEO article through an AI, the algorithms on the likes of LinkedIn and Google will spot that that's an AI generated document and put it to the bottom of the list. So even AI now is dobbing AI on itself. So this is where
it's good though, isn't it? Because it's you know, the plagiarism is going to be wild.
I was reading a couple of posts. There's this learning science expert on LinkedIn, Dr. Philippa Hardman is her name, and she's big into now, like, how we can use AI to facilitate learning and to really, like, rocket fuel it, and learning design and all this kind of thing. It's so interesting. But she really digs into the whole, like, this thing of teaching people how to use AI to support their learning, and how to get, like, you know, certain objectives out of it, all this kind of stuff, and learning design, but also teaching learners how to use it to support their learning. So it's this thing of, we need to get a handle on this, because people will be using it, but we need to teach them to use it in a certain way. So students will be using it, but teach them how to prompt it properly, and then teach them how to put a critical eye across what this thing is spitting back to them, because it's this thing, that's the key. It's not taking it at face value, it's being able to critique it, and then so they are going to use it. We need to get it into classrooms and figure out, right, what do we want them to be using it for.
I think that how to use thing is the most critical thing, and I think of all the amazing ways I've just said AI helps me in the mainstream, and this is the things we've got available. I work with quite an amazing guy in this space, And he was like, I'll give you a really great opportunity about how important it's going to be to teach people to use the output properly and be critical of it. And he said, for example, he put into ChatGPT, tell me about, and he put his own name. And it went off on the internet and it pulled together, and he said 70% of the information was correct. But it had, like, you know, Bob has worked at this place and this place and this place, and then some other information. And the third place wasn't correct. And it said, why did you say that Bob has worked at this third place? And it said, based on statistical analysis, because we could find that you'd worked at this place and this place, and they were linked to the same sector, there was a very high likelihood that you had worked for the third employer too. So we put that in as a statistical probability, but they presented it as fact. They didn't say, and Bob's probably worked here.
Yeah.
They said, Bob has worked here. And he said, this is the bit about how we use it, is ChatGPT and the AI that we're getting used to will present stuff as fact, even if it has made a call in the background. That's the stuff we need to be really careful of.
Yeah,
definitely. I mean, I remember back when, you know, because when I first started work 30 years ago this month, which makes me seem really old, we didn't have PCs and computers and stuff. So we were, when they came in, we were taught how to use a mouse, how to use the internet properly. I think it wasn't Google, it was Ask Jeeves or somebody.
Ask Jeeves, I remember it so well.
Do you remember Ask Jeeves? And do you remember the Clippy, the on Word documents?
Oh, the paperclip.
Yeah, the paperclip, right? That's AI. I see that you're trying to write a letter.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's AI, because it can pick up what you're trying to do. So it's been around that long, you know, when we think about it. But we were taught how to use search engines. But I think that, I mean, my kids weren't. They just, somehow it had been like absorbed into their brains whilst they were in vitro. But, you know, somehow they know how to use it. So maybe this, you know, there was the Silver Surfers kind of generation of teaching them how to use computers. And I do think you're right. We need to learn how to use that and how to be critical of it, because the WHO or WHO, they've got this, they're trying to put something in to say that because obviously it's collecting information all over the internet. And we know half of what in the internet is complete horseshit.
Yeah.
So that could, like you said, could be classing it as fact because it's collecting all this information. But we need to have some kind of, I don't know, some body or something that will check that what is on the internet is true, so that AI will work, or AI need to filter it out somehow.
Or flag where they have, you know, sources or whatever it might be. But yeah, there definitely needs to be something.
Yeah, but you know, I think you know, I've thought as well that it's not just going to support the health and safety professional or the kids at school, but within a business, how it can still support us as a profession is definitely maybe supporting the likes of the HR team when they write a job description for a health and safety professional. I've been I was looking for jobs for a while, and all the job descriptions and all the adverts were pretty much the same.
Oh my God, they're so bad, lads.
So bad.
You know?
They've obviously just got it from some template and put it on there. Whereas if you can be really specific, we need a health and safety professional with you know, with experience, and we want them to be able to do X, Y, Z, and put there what they need in it. It will then write it for you.
Yeah. And you can tell it to write it so that it's not a dry piece of shite either. Like,
this interesting.
I'm in that space at the moment. I'm trawling the jobs, and I'm like, I do not want to do that shitty sounding job. That sounds mind-numbing.
The sad thing is it's actually a mass disservice. And trust me when I say I've been in a position where I've had to write like 50 job descriptions or whatever, and it's so painful to keep the same level of zeal. And also when you're in a real rush, when somebody, you know, resigns, you didn't expect them to, and they've only got a 4-week period, and you've got to interview, and you're like, it all gets out the door, and you end up putting out a dry job description. I think everybody's done it, and you think, oh, it doesn't reflect.
But it's not even that, like, oh, everybody done it. It's that's the standard. That's what's kind of always been done. Whereas now you could go to Chat Dude and you could be like, here's the job description. You need to be, again, it's all about the prompt. So you're telling ChatGPT that you're like, I want you to be fucking unreal, really excited about this. These are the company values. So you can put in about the company, about the values. This is job description. Now give me something that is going to get an unreal candidate who's going to blow this out of the water. And it will. And sometimes it sends stuff back to kind of go, all right, chat, calm down. It gets very like, oh my God. And you're like, okay, too much. Take it back. Yeah.
But as well, we're trying to attract, a younger workforce in the health and safety profession. Because, I would say over half of health and safety professionals are white men over the age of 55.
More than that, I think it's 70-something%, is it? I think,
Right.
I think there was some stat recently, I don't know, was it like of IOSH members or something like that? Where it's like,
it was from me, 70% of members will be retired in 4 or 5 years or something.
We're in trouble.
Yeah, we are in trouble.
Yeah. So we're needing to, attract those younger people to say, because, when you tell people, I don't know if you have sometimes the same look when someone goes, oh, so what do you do when you're meeting someone new? I'm a health and safety professional. And I go, oh, no, I'm not one of those ones, though,
the amount of times you have to discredit for sure.
I'm not those, because it's seen to be. Whereas if we can put some adverts out there to start attracting these, younger professionals that maybe want to come into health and safety as a second profession, or don't realise they're already doing a kind of a bit of health and safety on the side, when we're, expanding our scope to well-being and sustainability, ESG, all of this.
But we need to be, but we need to be advertising the fact as well that it's like, we're forward thinking, we're innovative, and we will use these tools. Like we're leaning into all this tech stuff. We need to be really pushing that, because I saw something, I think it was actually a pod clip of James McPherson talking about ChatGPT, and he had mentioned about Googling stuff, and some crusty old dude in the comments underneath was like, I've never Googled anything about this, is ridiculous, and you can't be a safety professional if you have to Google it. I was like, oh wow, you outrageous. People are still out there, outrageous. And then he was like, I only ever go to the HSE website. I'm like, so you admit to using the search bar on the HSE website? What the fuck do you think that is? You're Googling. But so if we still have that attitude, it's just not going to fly. So
I think that's kind of need these older guys to retire off, in my opinion, so we can start getting these. But we need to attract that younger workforce.
And also, I'm loath to hashtag not all the older guys. Obviously we know there's some fabulous, you're all there and you're great, but there are some who need to fuck right off. That's all. Yeah,
and I'm assuming there are some crusty old women as well that have been in the profession.
Absolutely. Yes, so, but yes.
Yeah, in the spirit of inclusion, actually, if you are, regardless of your age or your gender or your non-binary status, if you are not being progressive and you are holding everybody back and you refuse to use technology and you refuse to embrace the actual reality of work versus what you think it is, and you need to, now is the time. Just we need that to move over.
I think that that whole I read a paper from ACRE about the next stage of the profession, and they were talking about you need to be creative, you need to be questioning, you need to be innovative. You can't be that whole dictatorial finger wagging officer with a clipboard dead, or should dead. And again, if anybody listening has one of those people in their business, maybe consider looking for somebody else, because you're never going to improve. You're just going to be ticking boxes, and you're not going to be progressing. You're not going to be engaging with that workforce. You're not going to be.
The only thing I would say is, as a caveat to that, look, I've owned a clipboard before. I've been that dickhead. So before we just write them off, give them a chance. And if then they're not going on board, then fuck them off. That's all.
For sure. Like you said, we all have clipboards, but again, I didn't have a computer till I was, 22. But because you had no choice, you had a clipboard and a pen and paper. but that's, I've worked with quite a few customers that want to develop and change. Working with the previous employer was was a real eye-opener. I got to speak to people across various industries, and the commonalities of the issues were the same, that they did want to change. They did want to digitize their processes. They did want to use mobiles and computers, but there is still that fear of new technology, of, well, what if they're just sitting around and dicking around on their phones? Well, yeah, but you're asking them to use it as a work tool. Yeah, but then we're going to have to buy everyone their own phone. No, what it's 2023, you know, they use WhatsApp, and I'm sure their phones, you know, it's not a flip phone anymore where data and you only had so many messages you can send. It's changed. And I think a lot of people would be okay using their own phone if it made their workplace safer to raise an incident or a hazard report.
Or easier, right? If you said to somebody, you can use these 50 pieces of paper, or we can have a tool in your phone where you can just cut down that noise and that ag and stop cutting down those trees, most people would be on board.
I think you'd like to think so as well. And the whole piece of, you know, the little cards, you still see these little cards, near miss card or hazard spot card around some of these businesses. And you think, well, where do they go? You know, where do these little cards go? Well, they'll go on someone's desk or slip under a door.
I used to have a shoebox under my desk, jammed, and then I had them like bound in elastic bands, like, these are the ones for me, and like this. And then it was like, have you done the data entry those yet? I'm like, oh my God, my soul is dying. Get me out of this job.
Whereas again, you get you can get people to use this mobile first platform, and they can do the admin for you. Plus, they can add a photo to it. You can't add a photo to a, you know. So things like that. And I love that idea of being able to look at your trends and your accident data using AI.
If you can, like, so clean out all your identifiable stuff, fire that into chat, dude, and see what it's going to spit back.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's awesome. I really love that, Crystal.
Good old
I may speak to some people to see if that could be doable. But yeah, and I think, I mean, even little things that just make our lives easier. You know, like you mentioned training and the way that you can do that. Again, there's trainings going the way of the micro learning tools,
which which is good in some sense, but people just go, oh, micro learning, and then they just chop up a shit course and start lashing it out in notifications. I'm like, no, your course is still shit and you're not teaching anyone anything. That's not what micro learning is meant to be, but that's a topic for another day. Sorry, I have to just
and I can maybe get someone that can come on and talk to you about that.
I was actually writing down to be like, at the end, we need a call to action. If anyone wants to come up and talk about micro learning, effective, like the do's and don'ts, please do.
I'll get you a name, Crystal.
Thank you.
Who I know exactly who would want to talk about that. And if she's watching, she'll know exactly who I mean. But having that, being able to develop those courses and having them bespoke. And so, you can get a crappy course, chop it up, stick it on micro learning. But if you can make it bespoke and fit your business, fit your company, fit your the way that you talk, you know, but not use it as the be all and end all. You know, there's some classroom in it, there's some practical learning. It's more holistic rather than just, well, instead of a PowerPoint presentation, you've got a blob through, which no one ever reads. This gamification aspect of it can work really well. But the place I worked at before, I don't want to keep I'm not going to drop the names, but those who know me know who it is. Or you can see on LinkedIn where I've just left. But you can set in now an AI tool. So they put an AI create in the corner. So you could create me a course on making tea, right? Or you know, manual handling or something, and it will create this course for you within like 2 minutes. So I remember the times where I would sit there for hours doing a PowerPoint presentation, making it look all fancy, and
looking on Google Images for some shite photo of a spine.
All those pictures, right? This does it for you now. So AI can, but again, it needs to go back to that point of making sure that you've got the qualified, educated person to understand, actually, that bit's a bit wrong. That's not quite how I want it to word. And you can then edit it, but it does the legwork for you. And I think that's for me is the benefit of this AI for sure, is the fact that you can get it to do the legwork so that you can then tweak it, make it, sing for you, and then you can go off and do what you want to do with the company and engage with people, talk to them, be that health and safety professional that's not just sitting in a white tower on a keyboard making presentations and doing. You can start engaging with them, and you can start learning more about the risks in that workplace rather than sitting down doing paperwork.
How have I not met you before? Like, you are awesome. You are absolutely awesome.
Oh, thanks very much. I'm trying to get better at taking compliments, Crystal. So yeah, that was me.
Oh, we when me and Elisa first met, I can't take them a nor can she. So she'd be like, I really respect you. I think you're awesome. I'm like, I actually think you're wonderful. And she would also go,
stop saying it.
My previous boss was a Texan man, and he honestly, it was like after a meeting with him, it was like you'd been injected with caffeine. He was awesome. But he'd go, "Hey, Tiff, I appreciate you. You just keep rocking." And I'm going, "Oh, okay, thanks very much." but it took me a while to realise that he actually meant it. It wasn't just kind of you're great. He actually meant it. And it's just like, so he was great. But that whole compliment thing. But I kind of wanted to look at or have a quick chat about some of the tips that I'd learned about.
Yes. So it was going to be, I could see Elisa do we've got 5 to 10, and on my list was, you said support tool, and I put a love heart around it, and it was going to be on our listeners' minds, our viewers' minds. What do you use it for? What tips are on your mind that you can share with us? Because I'm pen ready.
Pen ready. So I think, and again, this isn't just for the health and safety profession, it's just using the tool itself, is, as we talked about, being very specific of the question you want to ask it. So if it's like, do me a risk assessment on a forklift truck, be specific.
Yeah.
Because risk assessments are supposed to be suitable and sufficient, but also very specific to that task that you're doing. So be as specific as you can. And I think that it's going to develop to a point where you can start adding photos to it. So it'll start to go, oh, yes, I understand what you mean by racking and all that kind of stuff. But don't be too jargony, because if you put acronyms in, even if you put the word IOSH in, there's so many different meanings for IOSH out there. It could get the wrong end of the stick.
Yeah.
So don't use acronyms. Use the full terminology. And again, if you're asking questions about pieces of legislation, I wouldn't use ChatDude. I would use the HSE.
The appropriate website. Yeah.
Oh, there's actually. Oh, I thought I got sent another AI bot thing the last day that does this whole thing where like it cites, so it'll cite legislation and it'll do all it'll put it in the right places of like, it'll be doing like a risk assessment, and if it's a risk assessment about manual handling, and next thing there'll be a little icon and you click on it and it cites exactly where that legislation comes from. I can't remember what it's called.
It's cool, but again, who's that for? You remember when a risk assessment is really for the end user to understand what risk are being attributed to it. You start sitting there, you're going back to getting maybe a clipboard and a pen out, going, well, legislation 7394 says.
Oh, listen,
do you know what I mean?
Even the snazziest, most streamlined risk assessment, they're not fucking reading them, lads. I don't care if it's coming on an app. I don't care if it's like, they're not. And people are not and don't and will not. Doesn't matter how cool it is. We need to accept that fact that people don't read our risk assessments.
Yeah.
I don't give a shit what they're signing. I don't care how many times they sign it. Lads, they're not reading it.
Let's get back to the tips. Let's go back
to the tips. Because that's a whole other conversation.
Yeah.
It is. So other tips would be, so we've said be specific. When it comes out with your answer and it spits it out, definitely read it. I've seen people send me reports and emails with, I am a chatbot written on it. Yeah. And they've not even read it. I actually saw one of my daughters. So homework, sometimes schools are now picking up on that, because I think what it's doing is going, if this looks like an exam question, I'm going to stick in every now and then, I'm a chatbot, or it will put it in there. And like you said earlier, Crystal, is just make sure it's factually correct. Yeah. And that's where you'd maybe go, I'm not quite sure about that. And that's where that professional experience and knowledge is going to come in, is making sure that you can proofread this adequately. And I'd be open with using your AI. I'd basically say this risk assessment has been supported by ChatGPT, or this article or this report I've written has been done using ChatGPT, because the more people see it, I think it will be that commonality piece, maybe just to start off with. But again, this is just how I would like to know that if someone's giving me information and they've done it through an AI, I'd go, okay, at least they're being honest with that. So then maybe I can go back and fact check, rather than like Wikipedia. I mean, my kids think Wikipedia is real. They think it's a real.
Yeah.
Well, we all know it, again, absolute horseshit. Most of it, because it's anyone can go in and edit
anyone,
it.
yeah.
So
but to your point, it's about transparency. It's no different to actually citing a science paper. If you were writing an assignment or whatever, to cite where your information came from. If you've used AI, you should cite it and be like, this came from ChatGPT.
Agree.
And I think that if we get, if the more that we say that to people and the more that is out there, the more people should start using it. Because I think I've seen one article that says this has been supported using an AI program.
Yeah, and it will only get better. That's the thing. It's going to improve. The accuracy will improve, and
it'll become more and more powerful. And also, the more we put into it, the more it will learn, the more accurate it'll get, and it will just become like, we Google things. There's no actual conclusive evidence to show that everything you get into Google is factually correct.
Well, we all know
we deal with the risk, because most of the stuff takes us to legit websites that we can validate ourselves, because we are. Yeah.
And I think that's where our knowledge and experience definitely comes from, isn't it? Is that we know where to go to find that information. The guy that said he's never used any support and knows everything about safety, I wouldn't really believe people like that.
No,
never.
Unless they have a photographic memory or something, very clever like that. But yeah, that's part of our role, is to know where to go and have that logical kind of process when it comes to managing safety in the workplace.
Agreed.
So they're my main tips. Top
3 tips.
Top 3 tips.
Love it. Well, amazing. Well, I think in terms of like summary thoughts from my side, I think it's great that we're having the conversation. I love the fact that we're really starting to think about how this can support us do better work, because I think there is, and you tapped on it at the beginning, Tiffany, where you were saying this quite well, actually it might be the 4 seconds before we hit record, and you said that there's fear. There is this real narrative around, it's going to take our job, it's going to change everybody's life. It will change life in general, it has to, but so did computers, so did Google, so did all the rest. And I think if we start to really embrace this as a support tool, I don't know a single safety team out there that's not having to really push themselves to the limit of working hours, responsibility, cost caps, that everything. If we can actually start looking at this as a way to create more capacity in our teams, I think it's a win for business, a win for safety teams, a win for the people that we're trying to serve. And we haven't really got enough time or people to do that. And I'm not saying that's the position that that we are specifically in, but I know that there are teams and businesses out there that are struggling for time. Yeah. So I think really starting to embrace this as a support tool is the right thing. And I love your 3 things there. The real focus on, experiment with it. Here are some tips, but read the hell out of it. Know that it's right in what it's spat out. It's done the legwork for you. Your job is to validate it and make sure it's accurate, and then really be open. I think most bosses will probably be quite impressed if their safety professionals' approach is, do you know what, Bob, boss, we're really slammed at the moment. I've taken X amount of legwork out of this for the team because we're starting to use AI. This is the output. I think it's innovation. It's inevitable as well. So I've really loved this chat and I found that really helpful. So thank you.
Cool.
Elise.
I've really enjoyed it. And I think for me, definitely that piece around being innovative, because we need to draw in the younger people into the profession. That is, and that thing of job descriptions and how we're describing the roles and what it is that we do, and that we could use it to support us there as well, I think would be really cool. So yeah, class. Let's fucking get into it, lads. ChatGPT. Let's go.
And I just want to kind of say to you guys, so both of you, your Speak podcasts are brilliant. It's a real breath of fresh air to see something unedited with a whole range of people that you're talking to. And as I say, I really think you're making a difference to the health and safety profession. So, you know, keep it up. Thank you very much. And I will give you that name, Crystal, talking about microlearning.
Fab.
Love that.
Thanks so much. Thanks for coming on. It's been class.
Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you, everyone. And join us in a couple of weeks for the next episode of Speak. Bye.
See ya. Bye.
Bye.